I'm going to be talking about 80-20 marketing. We're going to be going through what's working and what's not in 2019. So quick rundown of what we'll be going through. First off, we're going through the truths and misunderstandings. Going to go on Mike Tyson on you. Then we're going to get into actually what's working. And this is not everything, because marketing is obviously a massive subject, and there's lots we could talk about and go deep in any one of these single subjects. But we're going to be going after the things that have the highest leverage. So both quick to implement as well as massive results, either or, usually. We'll break that up into 3 sections. One, traffic, so getting traffic to your website, purchasing organic, conversion, email subscribers, customers, and then how to maximize the customer value throughout time. And then lastly, we're going over the 80-20 ninja shit, the 80-20 squared. So that's where all the money is at. So who am I? My name is Taylor Hendricksen. I live in a little beer drinking town on the Columbia River. That's my why. And I really like that Rob talks about this, because it's really important it's not about growing a massive business. It's not about making a ton of money. It's about being able to have breakfast and dinner with the family every single day. So I consider myself a sales funnel and growth hacking. I hate the term growth hacking, but growth nerd. I try to figure out what works in businesses, how to scale those up, and how to use something that any pretty much business that sells something, we can figure out how to scale this faster. So I own, operate, advise about 5 or 6 different businesses, all self-funded, multiple, so we spend our own money. We don't have any kind of VC backing type stuff. And I've also, because a couple of my partners have built up some pretty massive businesses, multiple $100 million companies, we have the back-end access to see what's working and what's not. So while sometimes we're not spending the volume, you quickly learn if you spend $100,000 a day on Facebook, what works and what doesn't. So some of the stuff is going to be actual anecdotes and data to be able to show examples of it. Some of it's going to be talking about what works at a massive scale. So it's not just I did this one time on my one business in this one opportunity, and this is what happened. This is we run this multiple times. These are all the stuff that is cross-applicable to about every single business. So first off, truths and misunderstandings. Let's go over a few things that people common myths about marketing, what people think about it, and hopefully bust a few of those to have a proper perspective to look at this from. So world-class experts. Everybody thinks that they see a webinar, they see an ad, they see a headline. They think that people who are good at it automatically come in, hit home runs every time. World-class experts fail more than they succeed. Their biggest difference is how many times they take swings, too. Good company I know produces about 30 videos a month, and these are things they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on. They have about a 1 in 10 hit rate. They do this all the time. They're the best in the industry about it. They get the best experts. They still have to go back and redo things so many times and cut what's not working. They just know how to take as many swings as they can to figure out over time what works. I saw a video recently. It was Neil Patel talking about what's going to be working in 2019. And the main summary of it, and one of his points, was you had to be everywhere. You had to be doing everything. If you're not blogging, podcasting, doing YouTube videos, doing paid traffic on Google, Facebook, then you're getting left behind. And that's just not true, in my opinion. I think it takes 1 to 2 channels of really doing it well and digging that all the way down to get to a $100 million company. Beachbody talked about this. Infomercials was theirs. Then they doubled down on Facebook ads, did the same thing. But really, you don't have to do and just be spinning your wheels at everything to be extremely successful at what you do. They did a big study. Wicked Reports did a study on average, from click to conversion. How long does it take for somebody to go from basically a purchase? So over $4 billion worth of spend, they found on average, is 40 days. So people assume that you can just throw up some ads, you can run some organic traffic, people are going to convert on the spot. It's not the case. About 3% of people will do that, but another 47% are willing to buy in the next 6 to 12 months. They're just not quite ready yet. They need a little bit more nurture, a little bit more time. Depends on what study you look at, 10 to 11 touches with your business, with your brand, before they're comfortable actually purchasing with you. So all this kind of goes into your content, goes into your advertising, it goes into how you walk up somebody from nobody knows who you are up to actually becoming a purchasing customer. So for a long time, advertising was based off of either demographic or query-based traffic. So query-based, type something into Google, show up on the top of the search results, you can click it. Or go after females between the ages of 30 and 50 who live in Northeast, United States. Those lines are blurring really well. And I'll get into this more in the actual paid traffic section, but now you're able to do a lot more with targeting people who have very specific intents towards those keywords without having to pay $50 a click for the 500 people a month that search for that term. So we'll get into that more in a little bit. And this one is going to be a little bit different, too. I think there's a false dichotomy, especially in the software world, about I run SaaS. I run SaaS. I don't listen to e-com people or digital products. It does not apply to my business. I don't think that's true. I think the same thing. If you are selling something, you're selling something. And in the end, you may have different objections to overcome. You may have different things you need to present in terms of value, but you guys can learn as much from what the people are doing in e-com, what they're doing in digital products, and really apply it to our SaaS in creative ways that maybe aren't talked about very much. So honestly, what's happening right now is machine learning is taking over. In the world of online advertising, it's more and more going to the robots being able to make decisions for you. So with machine learning and artificial intelligence, it's getting to the point where they pretty much want you to hand over control. So before, we used to have hundreds of buyer signals we can kind of optimize for. So things like keywords, age, location, specific things we wanted to target. Google came out recently and said for the universal app campaigns, they have about 300 million buyer signals. I believe it was for each person on what they can optimize for. So there's no way right now that you can go and figure out which out of those is working. But they're figuring in things like past purchases, their search history, the videos they've watched, where they're at, on what device, and what things they've interacted with in the past that do that same thing. So maybe they're most likely to purchase on a Sunday afternoon when connected to Wi-Fi after watching this type of video. They'll put your ad in front of that, as long as you're optimizing for those exact things. So how to take advantage of this? The good thing is, please the robot overlords, you need to provide great data. Like, that's the best thing. Say, hey, this is kind of what I want. Here's the people who just converted. Go find me more of them. And if you don't have as much of that, say, hey, here's the people that watched a lot of the video. Go find me more of them. It's basically saying, here's the people that we want to go get more of. Go do it. And so that's where we're going to talk a lot more about that in the traffic section. But quick show of hands. Did anybody bring like stakes and pitchforks, Vegas, and pack luggage? Perfect. One did? Okay. What I'm going to say next is a little bit controversial, and you might be a little bit pissed off, and hopefully probably won't run me out of town with stakes and pitchforks. But if you can't afford to profitably acquire a customer, you don't have a business, you have an opportunity. And while opportunities can be extremely lucrative, like as you see from any startup, you look at Facebook, you look at all these different things, right product, right market, right time, right team, everything like that, it is in a lot of ways a big gamble, in my opinion. So if you don't have a core ability to go back and put $1 in and get $2 out, because you know the value of your customer, then you're playing on something that you have a much lower hit rate and control of. So I think paid traffic and making sure you are really mindful of your numbers should be a core of every single business out there. So let's talk about traffic. First things first, organic SEO. Travis talked a lot about this yesterday. I really wish he had the full presentation too, because he's the SEO expert. But what's crushing right now is these giant pillar content posts. He talked about the idea of switching from keywords to topics, and to have kind of topic relevancy and authority around your site. One of the easiest ways to do this is just take a big old hammer on what you're talking about, a complete guide, as opposed to just kind of dinking away in a tiny little nail, just a sledgehammer down. And that often means, 2,000 words of content is more reasonable, but some of the bigger ones definitely have the capability to cover a lot more terms, a lot more things, and you will naturally cover the subject if you write a couple thousand words on it. Table of contents is a great way to get not only some great in-page stuff, Google sees it as a way to kind of better organize the content, but it's a great way to get featured snippet too. So key way to do that, use an H2 for your table of contents title, that term you want to rank for in the featured snippet on Google, and then an unordered list right below that linking throughout your post. Oftentimes you'll get either like the site links in the search results, or the featured snippet, position 0, which is great. Rich media and schema are becoming a bigger and bigger deal too. Like the more of these, it's not necessarily a way of gaming Google, but it's definitely providing them the content that they want in the format that they're looking for. So add as much of this as you possibly can. Ask questions, throw FAQ markup on those. Have the things like tables throughout, as much videos and images as you can. And one way to do that also is to take your multiple content mediums. People don't necessarily want to read through a long worded post. Some people want to rather listen to it. Maybe they're on the on the commute or something. So just take this, get it either voice overed or throw it into Amazon Poly. You'll get an MP3 of it. It's a robot, but it's still pretty dang good for what it is. Make those videos also. Google sees it as a much more authoritative source too. As much as possible is great. And if you are really into content marketing and you're willing to spend a couple $1,000 a month on a tool, there's no better one out there than MarketMuse. I don't get any kickbacks for saying that, but if you want to optimize your content for what Google is rewarding, they are the best tool to do that. What that looks like is some pretty massive growth over time. This is a little bit older, but still same thing applies. This is basically based on a database-style content where we just racked up a ton of long-tail stuff, added in a bunch of rich schema, and had tremendous growth. This is a B2C SaaS business too. In terms of ad content, what's working really well right now? The more you can make it a game on there too, the more you can make it fun, interactive, and not just a boring man, how many like stock images have you guys seen on ads that are just clearly not there? They don't fit well on there. But something like this, hey, how much do you know about this? Here's a pop quiz. What's your IQ about this? Tag a friend. See how well you do. Average score is 73%. Can you do better than that? We use this to drive about 15,000 leads a month at 21 cents each. And just for months on end, we didn't even switch up creative. It just worked like crazy. So definitely consider that in how you're matching content. You can do a lot of cool things now with educational videos. And I know there's a lot of B2B SaaS here. And the problem is targeting, kind of a very narrow niche. So you can cast a wider net and be able to filter down the process by using things like only video subjects or educational that your prospects would care about. If they watch over half the video, maybe over 3/4 of the video, you can then put them down those next levels of retargeting to go after and talk more about them. Anybody who's not, in essence, like really deep in your niche and watches that probably will bounce off within a few seconds, which is great. You don't want to talk to them to begin with. So you want to sequence this like you would a normal conversation. Back to that 40 days and 11 touches thing, same thing there. Like as you're going through and initially talking to them, just like you would if you're going through a sales pitch, introducing the product, talking about the benefits, mitigating some of the risk, answering some of the objections, you should structure your content throughout to answer those exact same things and follow it like a normal sales sequence would. And if you're talking on social especially, be native. You don't show up in a tuxedo to a small house party. You want to make sure you're fitting the environment you're in. So things like emojis, GIFs work great. Selfie videos work great too. Another tip there, incentivize the heck out of your customers to give you a 30 to 60 second selfie video as a testimonial. Pay them $50, $100, whatever it is. But that's a real thing that people are just shaky. As long as the audio quality is decent, those are some of the best collateral you can have out there because it's real too. Let's get into paid traffic a little bit too, on the Facebook side. Raise a hand here too. How many people actually actively spend over a couple thousand a month on paid traffic? Very few. Okay, good to know. We're going to get into kind of what's working now, and I think everybody can start on this, especially on Facebook, at a very low rate too. It's an intimidating subject because you're spending a lot of money, you don't know if it's going to work. Experts out there across the board, most of them are shysters, honestly. But things that are working right now on Facebook, I think that you can implement, is something like a lookalike audience. So take your email list, take your website traffic, drop a pixel on it, and then you can create and go to Facebook and say, hey, give me as many people as you can that fit this mold. And they'll give you a 1% of the total country population that you can target, or 1 to 10%. Break those up into separate groups, and usually those are like a lot more people you would have never necessarily found otherwise. But Facebook knows, again, the robots are taking over, so they know a lot more about your prospects than you do. But you just say, hey, give me more of these. What the whole algorithm is going to, before you were able to optimize on an ad group level. So maybe getting a little bit too technical here, but it was really tough to go out and scale Facebook ads because you had to have tons of campaigns, tons of interest, get really manual on it. Now they're switching over 100% to all on a campaign level and say, hey, just throw up a bunch of audiences, throw up a bunch of ads within each one, and we'll figure it out. We'll optimize, we'll divert traffic to which one's performing best, and oftentimes we'll try to figure out that one or two things that are really working well, depends on kind of what you're bidding for, and they'll do it that way. So it's a tremendous way to now, man, we throw up big audiences. So like start off with 6 to 8 of them, as long as you have enough conversion data going through, which is about 20 per day. And for some people, they say, well, I can't get 20 conversions a day. That would also, that's insane. Plus, then maybe the value per conversion is, $100. They're not going to be able to drop two grand a day starting off on ads. You can optimize for something like a micro conversion for that too. So link clicks. You get 20 link clicks a day, especially at $1 a click, go into your stuff. So now they know what you're looking for and who's kind of reacting to that. Okay, yeah, get more people who are interested in clicking on that for sure. If you're doing B2C, that's kind of where my paradigm is. We usually start with those audiences no less than 1 million people. I know probably most B2B audiences in here are far less than that, but it's a good place to start. Again, just give it as much as you can, let it figure it out. And then video ad retargeting is another one of those too. Like I've talked about, qualify with educational videos. You can really walk people through a great sequence of videos. If they're watching more than 50 to 75% of them, video views you can get for a couple cents a piece versus link clicks. If they're going to your site, that's starting to be $1, a couple bucks, whatever that is. That can rack up costs pretty fast. But this is a way to keep it native within Facebook's platform and still continue that conversation with them. And lastly, little tip here, use post IDs if you're creating new ads. Don't just keep creating new ads because you're not sharing the social signals between those. So use an ad, you'll see the post ID if you actually go to that ad and copy it into the ad manager to make sure that same thing with all those likes and comments is getting put forward because they perform so much better over time. So we copy those throughout and reuse smaller amount of posts much more often because of that. Next off is paid search from Google, too. And this is, there's a couple sides to this, too. I'm not actually going to talk about AdWords, the whole query-based stuff. Where I think this is going that's really cool and blurring the lines between this contextual targeting or query targeting and demographic targeting, it's called custom intent and custom affinity audiences. So for this, you can plug in something like, hey, what keywords are my people searching for? What subjects are they interested in? What websites are they going to? And then instead of trying to compete for those 500 searches a month for $50 a click, which is very low volume, you can go after those people who have done it in the last few months and start to follow them around everywhere else. So you can now be that creepy person that you think something and then Domino's pops up on your phone. This is how to do that. So it's a really effective way of going after an audience where you're not exactly sure what they're doing, but you know a lot about them. So their names or the keywords or what websites they're frequenting. Affinity is the stuff they always like. So football fans. They're always football fans. You can always go after the football fans. Intent is when they divert from the normal stuff. So a football fan now shopping for a truck. So that's how you separate those two. And very much like the Facebooks, the lookalike audiences in Google are called similar to audiences. They'd be automatically created for you, but a great way to target and say, hey, just please go find more of these people. You can now target those audiences really well. And make sure to break these up, too. Similar to your best paying customers, maybe your top 25% of customers, you want to get better than that. Similar to your website visitors, similar to people who watch your video. You can build these audiences based off multiple factors. You're going to get a little bit different cross-section of people every single time. And then you kind of figure out what works from there based on the results you get from the campaigns. YouTube TrueView for Action is now becoming the best way to use YouTube ads to actually drive conversions. Before, it was very difficult to track. Usually it was they saw something on YouTube, they went back and Googled your stuff and went to your website and they converted. So you had no attribution for how much to credit YouTube. You just know when you spend on YouTube, it rises the whole tide. Now this is a way to actually drive a call to action with a direct link going back to your website. And this is how a few companies are now starting to figure this out at scale. This is how you can spend 70, 80, just about to 100,000 a day on YouTube. I'm not going to really get into GDN Smart campaigns, but if you want to know more about that, tremendous way to, if you have enough conversion data going through, you turn that on, and it just goes out and does everything for you, which is really cool. Get into conversion. As you guys can tell, I kind of like the nature scenes. Nice in the Vegas concrete jungle to have a little bit of a little calm, a little peace to it. Conversion. So this is going to be talking about either an email or email conversion, contact type opt-in, as well as the actual product itself. So a big problem people have is they don't actually know what they're selling. You think you're selling a product, you think you're selling a software, whatever this is, integration, here's the features, here's the cool stuff you can do. And as a developer, you're so focused on building those to match use cases with your customers that you forget you're not selling a piece of software. You're selling an outcome, or the solution to a problem, or a deep desire. And this is where we'll get into a little bit later, too, about how to take it down levels beyond, I sell scheduling software. I make sure that you don't look embarrassed because you forgot something. You start to move past these levels of tool, and then it becomes a very logical decision of, okay, is this worth the price I'm going to pay for it, to how much could this impact my life? Either preventing something bad from happening, solving a hair on fire problem I have, or a deep desire that really makes me motivated to buy, instead of just a very logical decision on that. So in that, you should try to give them exactly what they want. Nobody likes tips. Nobody wants to wake up and see a new email newsletter in. And I think we all get bombarded with so many email newsletters. We'll never sign up for something like that. So anything like tips, ebooks, white papers, same exact thing. Something like this would be, I'll get to in just a second also, but that gives instant and personalized results as to what they have. MarketMuse does a great job of this. I help them with some conversion stuff, but they provide hey, direct, you want to see your content opportunities, where you have some opportunities for it. You get instant feedback as to what that is, which is something, instead of some white paper on tips to improve your content marketing, which nobody wants more tips, you get instant personalized results about you. And my favorite way of doing that is through those calculators and quizzes. And I'm not just talking about what Disney princess are you. That has nothing to do with your business. Things like IQ questions, like how much do you know about the subject? People always want to know that. What category are you in? It allows you to take qualitative questions and put it into quantitative data. So you can either do this a couple different ways, either a scoring basis, you can do a category basis, or what I call points or a limit side. So a lot, a little, based on kind of what points category they fall in, associating or weighting each kind of answer differently in a multiple choice type situation. It allows you to make micro commitments too, as opposed to just jumping over a big hurdle of, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily get the value out of this email address. If I'm going to put it in, I don't know if I'm going to get that value, versus click, click. You start to string together those things, and sooner or later, they're willing to enter a lot more information than before because you feel like they feel like you've taken them on a journey. Allows you to agitate a better pain and get them into a kind of a buyer mindset too, which is great. You can start to get them in the framework of, especially coming off social media, they were just looking at cat memes. So to get them into a place where they're not ready to purchase your product is going to take a little bit of distance. This is how you can cover that distance, start to get them in that mindset of buying. And it allows you to create some incredible viral and standalone potential, as well as paid traffic. So some examples of this. Implemented it. We had a normal ebook type stuff. We took opt-in rates from about 0.5% to 8%. This is on 500,000 visits a month type sites. So it's not like a 200 visitors per month type thing. Same with another client, same exact thing. And I do have a colleague who'd used this for his B2C SaaS. Was able to get a standalone test. It got a bunch of press features, a bunch of #1 ranks, and was driving those things all day long. Tremendous impact in his business. So if you're not considering it, figure out a way you can make that. Either do a personalized result for how much you can save somebody can know about themselves, but make it something they're actually interested in too. Like, for example, like a real estate agent too. Not necessarily, hey, give me your information so I can start selling you, but the main core idea somebody has or question in their mind to have when they're actually going to looking for a real estate agent is, how much is my house worth? How much could I sell it for today? If you can kind of provide that exact same thing through an automated system, it's a tremendous way to get some great, much better conversions. So email marketing. I'm sure everybody here mostly does email marketing. B2C or B2B email marketing is about as interesting as beating my head into a desk, usually. You're talking about features, you're comparing things, it's just super boring. The more you can make it about a story and engaging, and especially engaging people at work, you're going to have much better results of this. So Autoresponder Madness is a great way to do it. I have another buddy who does this he's an improv background, and he's gone into B2C or B2B email marketing a lot, and he starts off with a completely random story. He had one about Charles Manson, I think was in the subject line, the genius of Ted Bundy was in subject line. Tremendous response rate. He was talking about the Netflix thing, and then he segued into the business itself. So you can make it so people actually want to read your emails, which is kind of crazy, as opposed to just selling them hard, right? Directly into it. Tactical way to do this too is making sure you have text-only emails. So as much as you like the HTML stuff with beautiful headers and links over to your social profiles, those are killing your inboxing. They're getting you in promotions, they're getting you in spam. The best way to do this is no more than 3 links on a page, no images if you can avoid it, especially linked ones. I mean, nobody sends their friend a linked image in an email. So this is a good way to make sure you get in the inbox. And unsubscribe only as a text. I had a buddy test this. He switched over. He sends about 6 million emails a month or so. He says unsubscribe from this list versus just unsubscribe. Tremendous improvement, or tremendous difference when he switched to the other one and then switched back to just unsubscribe. And then from a human name, just like an email, you try to mimic human behavior as best you can. And another trick, too, is try to get as many replies as you can, too. So in the first emails that we send out, we're asking them things. We want them to respond to the email because it's a great sign to ESPs that you're delivering value. People want to read these emails because they're responding to them. That's great. So where industry average open rates are 28 or 21.8%, says MailChimp, 17.4% says Aweber, we're getting 54.3% for one client, and you can see the other ones on there. This is not like sending 10 emails or 100 emails a month. These are all lists of 80 to about 250,000. We're sending out millions of emails a month of this, getting those numbers consistently, with text only, with engagement, with making sure people actually want to open the emails, because that's going to be the only way you actually make a sale. Last section, monetization or maximization. This is where all the money's at. This is the best part of it. So most people think they have a traffic problem, but most people probably actually have a monetization problem. Honestly, you're not making enough money per customer. You're not charging enough, not having enough better ways to make that money off the customer. So this is where I think the lowest hanging fruit is, and the bottom of the funnel stuff, for having a tremendous impact in your business. It all starts off with making a great offer. This is a little bit more strategic than tactical, but focusing on solving their pains, I'm again going to come back to, because that is one of those keys. I'll get into a little bit on what exactly that looks like, but figuring out how to, I think SaaS in general gives this idea of, we have software, we want to charge $40 a month for it. It's only monthly fee, they sign up, and then they cancel. Like, that's the only constraint that they think about SaaS. There's some other things you can do in there. There's some other pricing models you can look at. What if you're charging $50 a month, and your average churn is 3 months? That means your average customer value is about $150. What if you offered a one-time for $300? Now I'm making a lot more money. I know there's obviously like the ongoing support and maintenance type of stuff, but just think of things beyond just a standard monthly payment too. And same thing with the dollar trials, different like opt-in offers, how to make that tripwire type thing go into your product, and just test it. Experiment around with what works and what doesn't on that. The bold guarantee is something where I think it can work really well in a lot of businesses. We had a B2B or a B2C one that we basically said, hey, if you don't pass this licensing exam, we'll pay you back 200% of what you paid in. We had to, I think, pay out about 3 different times out of thousands of customers. It tremendously impacted the conversion rate and also instilled a ton of trust in your product of, hey, we're so confident that our product does what it says it's going to do, and making sure they actually went through the courses. We saw their progress, making sure they actually did it and not just coming back for some free cash. But it had a tremendous impact, and because the product itself was fantastic to start with. Price anchoring is another way of doing this. I was talking to a gentleman last night who does scheduling for manufacturing companies. And how to price that stuff, too, is a really tough question. What do you price the software piece at? You know kind of the impact it has on the company. Maybe like, hey, it's more of an insurance play at that point, too, sometimes of, hey, if your line goes off, this is something where you're selling vitamins. You're selling something that's preventative. But when you start to dig below that, too, of what does it cost you if your line goes down for 3 days and you can't manufacture anything? Even more than that, what does it cost your relationships with your distributors, your customers? Or what does that put in their mind? Can you put a price on that if your customers don't trust you can actually keep a business running or create good products anymore? So figure out where to price those things at, either to an equivalent thing, so for the B2C world, it's really trying to make it something that they do every day. So anchor it to the price of eating out for a coffee. For something like that, we're like, oh, okay. It equates value either to something really small or the prevention of something really large. How much will it cost you if you fall and break your hip? That's a lot of money and a lot of stuff. And then including awesome bonus gifts is another way to potentially maximize that value. I've heard some incredible stories about just offering a simple coffee cup or a t-shirt tremendously impacted front-end conversion. So we always want to figure out how to increase your customer values. And I know in SaaS, oftentimes that just means adding a zero to it. But figure out the ability that they can pay more for things. Maybe have some different tiers, have add-on options, have premium bundles, have something else you can offer them because you've already done all the work of acquiring the customer. That's by far the most expensive thing. Now you want to maximize how much value or how much you are charging for getting from each one. So a way to do that also is one-click upsells. If your payment processor, your shopping cart has the ability to do that, pretty sure McDonald's business was based upon that completely. Would you like fries with that? That's where they made all their margin, because those are high margin items, hamburger is not. So just by adding those things of, hey, would you like an additional product with that? Would you like support? Would you like premium something? Even just doing something and call it premium support. I have other companies I've heard from that have done expedited processing, which really just means they kind of put those orders first for an extra $5 on the checkout pages. Doesn't really do very much difference for them, but it adds a substantial amount of revenue to them every single month. And then sell more stuff, same thing. Add more stuff in there, figure out what else your customers are looking for. That includes stuff that's not yours, too. You have a valuable set of customers that have now trusted you, they're listening to you, and they have other needs, too. You think your product is the only thing that's going to fit, and that's kind of the paradigm you're in, but after you're done pitching them, maybe it's not right yet, do you just drop it? I think most companies do. We've had this conversation before. At what point do you start to switch over to affiliate stuff or to other products you can recommend that you know are great products that most of that audience would find extremely useful to do? So I would start to think about that, of how can you, even though it's not your own product, even though you're not necessarily making money personally off that, you're getting some of those referral fees, you're providing them with a great solution they may have not known before, and you're basically subsidizing your ad spend. You're subsidizing a lot of other parts of your business. That's free money you could be doing at a very minimal cost for sending emails. And lastly, we're going to talk about how to nip churn. It's a little anecdote I heard, so not me personally, but people can't eat your brownies and cancel your stuff. Perry Belcher told a story about a expensive, about $400 a month membership. And they found out churn was about 4 or 5 months, was average on when people were canceling out. So instead of just taking it, they sent people brownies about 2 weeks before that. It added about 2.5 months of extra stick to that. $1,000 for $10 of the brownies they sent. People love getting that stuff for free. I love an unexpected gift or something like that where now it's like, oh, they genuinely feel bad for canceling your stuff. So whether that's like a surprise thing, figure out where your churn is and be able to get in front of it, that's a good way of doing it. So last part, the 80-20 squared, the ninja shit. Love that I found that image too. This will make pushing, feel like you're pushing a boulder downhill instead of uphill. And that's really solving a deep pain point or problem or desire. And get into something actually what that looks like. I know it sounds a little bit strategic, it sounds a little wish-washy, but actually putting things in the context of where they're actually solving people's problems and getting to the emotional level of purchasing instead of just a logical fill this space with whatever that is. So what that looks like too, we do a lot of leads for bathroom remodels too. We do a tremendous amount of lead gen of a bunch of different niches. So we're not just selling a bathroom remodel, awful contractor experience, we're selling the ability to not be embarrassed with their 70s bathroom again so they can entertain people. People love the idea of having people over. Conceptually. They often don't like actually doing it. But now, they don't feel embarrassed of it. Same thing with a walk-in tub or stair lifts too. We have a lot of these leads of, oftentimes it's boomers shopping for their parents on this too. They feel so guilty, they can't be there to take care of their parents all the time. Maybe they live far away, maybe they do something else. They're willing to spend a lot of money for that comfort of their parents. Now you can take care of them 24/7, no matter where you're at, and you're making sure you don't have a fall in some of the most dangerous rooms in the house. How much, again, would a hip fracture cost? So that really anchors the price well for an already expensive product. Then we have another one, the product that helps women recover from pregnancy. And that's just an exercise and meal plan, developed by some experts, has great information, great content, but it's really asking, how your friends will demand to know how you did it so fast, how you bounce back so well. So really playing up that ego. But you're solving one of those desires. The biggest concern of women after they gave birth was, from what the people we talked to, was, when am I going to get my body back? When is this going to be back to normal? How long does it take? Making sure I don't hurt myself. So by filling some of those demands, you can make all of the marketing, everything you've talked about, so much more effective. That'll carry through all of your advertising, your conversations, your website, what your product solves. And after that, it's actually going to solve the problem for people better, because they know actually what you do, what the value you're providing for them. Again, you're not selling software. You're selling outcomes or results for people. So thank you very much. Really appreciate the time here. Great community, open to questions.
Have you tried the $1 trial offer, and any other insights on what the results were from that?
Yeah, so $1 trial is a great way to, as opposed to free trial. I know there's a lot of debate around this. I'm really excited to hear some more about the pricing talk that's coming afterwards too. It was a great way to get people actually swiping the credit card. And the biggest thing was making them commit enough to whip out their credit card. And after that, say, hey, $1 trial for 3 days is one of the things we had, and it worked phenomenally well. It was just that lowering the initial barrier to entry to get them invested just a little bit. So you think of it like stair steps. If you have a big old 3-foot step before you're actually going to get to a conversion, that's really hard for most people. So if you can add an intermediary one, where it's a little bit of value exchange for a little bit more, then they're much willing to take that to the next level too. So initially, you can charge, if you go up to somebody and say, hey, it's going to be a $10,000 purchase, most people, it's going to kind of shock them. But this is a way to get a little bit better, a little bit up there for that. So we saw it work phenomenally well, as opposed to a free trial that got them into a continuity program. Yeah.
Thanks, I love the talk.
Thank you.
So I know that B2B and B2C end up being very different. Mm-hmm. Is there some anti-advice you could give to B2B people and anti-advice you could give to B2C? Like B2B people, you're going to see this a lot, that's wrong. B2C people, you're going to see this, it's wrong, or something like that?
Mm-hmm. I think oftentimes it's a false dichotomy. I think in the end, it's a B to H, a business to human. Because you are sales. Being able to sell to people is selling to people. And they're very different kind of what objections you need to handle, what the motivations are. For B2B, it's like maybe if you're selling to somewhere who's like a VP level, their motivations are much more looking good to their boss, not putting their neck out for something they necessarily believe in, where like B2C stuff is a little bit more about personal results for them. But in the end, you're able to tailor your product to fit who you're talking to a lot more. So going after a business owner is a different conversation than going after somebody mid-level who's maybe not necessarily making that decision. So in general, as you guys know, B2B is a little bit longer sales cycles, as they have more approval in there too. So being able to get back in touch with people in those follow-up sequences, either manually through email and stuff, or honestly the paid stuff too. Going after and putting $5 a day to a Facebook campaign that goes back and retargets those same people that have already converted, that are maybe in the midst of that sales cycle. So it's just that constant little reminder throughout the whole time. And same for B2C too. I don't think it's necessarily that different. Yeah.
In your beginning of your talk, you were talking about optimizing the emails and using text and not too many links and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned that just using the word unsubscribe instead of unsubscribe from emails or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You said it improved the emails. What did it improve about the emails? Was it just
deliverability and inboxing?
Okay.
Yeah. So I learned it from, actually, would not have expected that either. So I learned it from somebody who's really deep in the email testing world. So we implemented that, as well as I've had other people who are sending a lot of emails implement that. And it's just much better as to get in the inbox instead of promotions, and same with spam too. I think it closely more relates to what the ESPs are exactly looking for. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for a great talk.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, go back to the brownie story for a second, and strategies for nipping churn in the bud. The brownie story is cute, but comes off as a one-off. So I was wondering whether you have other stories or other examples or strategies we might bring to bear in that similar spend $1, make 100 to improve retention in the same way as the brownie story did.
Yeah. So brownie story really focuses on the idea of gratitude. Like somebody's not going to be able to have a great unexpected gift that kind of delights them and be able to go out and cancel something afterwards. So it's more so making your company stand out at that and about the time where they're starting to have problems. So for SaaS companies in particular, that could be user metrics. Hey, we notice your average login is below this quartile that we know it needs to be for you to stay active using it. We know as soon as you go below that, it's only a matter of time before you churn out. So as soon as they hit that number, or maybe getting close to that number, send out a personal email to them reaching out. Say, hey, I just want to make sure if you have any questions, anything we can do to improve the product. Those types of like personal touches of making it more human. Been playing on some of those cognitive biases too, a bias of gratitude. So maybe it's not brownies, cute, but man, for an extra $1,000 a month from, or $1,000 customer value from $10 for the brownies can do it. There's plenty of other ways to do that too. Offering something for free, offering free onboarding, better support, anything like that, you can get ahead of somebody churning out. Yeah.
Hi there. Thanks for the great talk, by the way. I'm just getting started with Facebook ads and trying to figure that out, and I was curious if there's a difference between the ads and the boosted posts, and if there's a good place to go to just kind of get started with Facebook ads if you really don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, totally. So Facebook is changing about every week in terms of what they call what, titles within there, where it's hidden within the interface. So boosted posts are now like a different thing altogether, and technically to create a Facebook ad, well, that's what I was saying when using post IDs. Those are existing posts that we either created through the ads manager or were on our page already driving to a website that we're actually plugging into those ads. So in a sense, those are boosted posts. The best place to go to learn about this, especially updated information, is a company called AdSkills by Justin Brook and John Belcher. Tremendous amount of information about this. They have a great Facebook course and a great YouTube course too, if you're more interested in the video side of things. I'm not affiliated with them, but highly recommend their products.
All right, we have time for one more question.
Cool.
Thanks for a great talk. I loved your quote about if you can't profitably acquire a customer, then you just have an opportunity, not a business.
Mm-hmm.
So much of that depends on the LTV, the lifetime value of the customer. And since many of us are building new businesses, it may not have a grip on what that LTV is. Do you have any advice about how to think about LTV and figuring that out at the outset of the process?
I mean, even when you're starting off, I guess, what's your product priced at currently too?
Pardon me?
What's your product priced at?
3 different segments, $200 each.
$200 each, okay. So you can kind of get some gut information about that too, and also it will depend on how much cash you have and your risk tolerance. Like I know some people who buy customers knowing they're going to be break-even point at over a year. I don't like that. I want to break even basically my customer acquisition in 60 to 90 days. The more you can push that out, obviously the faster you can grow. He who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins. So the more you're willing to do that, but obviously bootstrapped, it's tough to spend that, especially when your acquisition cost is a couple $100. So going at it slow, starting off where say, okay, I know I'm willing to risk this because on average, I know they're staying more than 3 months, so I'm willing to risk 3 months up front in terms of my CPA, the cost per acquisition, to get that started.